Listen, life has a funny way of giving you exactly what you continuously think about. Most people don't even realize it, but they're living a script they wrote in their own mind years ago. If you think small, you live small. If you believe the world is against you, you'll find proof every day. If you think you're destined for greatness, suddenly opportunities start popping up that you never noticed before. Your thoughts are magnets. They pull things into your life. They attract moments, people, opportunities, and even challenges that match the energy you're putting out. And here's the part most people never hear. Your mind doesn't care whether the thoughts you feed it are good or bad. It just produces whatever you consistently plant. You can plant fear or faith, doubt or confidence, limitation or possibility. Either way, something grows. You ever notice how when you wake up already thinking your day will be bad, somehow everything goes wrong? But when you wake up believing something good is coming, suddenly the day feels lighter? That's not coincidence. That's the power of intentional thinking. That's the silent force shaping your reality. See, most folks walk around talking about what they don't want, what they can't have, what they're scared of, what they're unprepared for, what they've lost. And they wonder why those things keep showing up. You can't focus on the problem and expect a solution to magically appear. You can't dwell on lack and expect abundance to flow. Your mind can only produce what you give it permission to work on. If you spend your time thinking, I'll never make it, I'm too late, I'm too tired, I don't have enough, then congratulations. Your mind is already building a life to match those thoughts. But the moment you start saying, I can do this, I will make it, my time is coming, your mind shifts. It starts rearranging your actions, your confidence, your energy. Suddenly you show up different. And when you show up different, your life becomes different. Let me tell you something truthfully. Your belief system is the lock on the door of your future, and your thoughts are the key. If you believe you're meant for more, the door cracks open. If you believe you're stuck, that door doesn't even budge. Every successful person you admire once believed in something before they ever lived it. Their belief came first. The manifestation came second. They imagined it, then they walked into it. And the same rule applies to you. Your mind is the most powerful factor you will ever own, and most people don't even know they're the CEO of it. Every single thought you entertain becomes raw material that your mind processes, shapes, forms, and eventually turns into the reality you live in. People walk around thinking life is happening to them, when in truth, life is happening from them. Everything begins with a thought, and everything you keep thinking becomes a blueprint your future quietly starts following. Your mind doesn't argue with you. It doesn't challenge what you say. It doesn't correct you. It simply takes whatever you feed it and starts creating patterns, behaviors, choices, beliefs, and outcomes that match the thoughts you've planted. If you feed your mind fear, it manufactures hesitation. If you feed it doubt, it manufactures excuses. If you feed it comparison, it manufactures insecurity. But if you feed it vision, it manufactures purpose. If you feed it confidence, it manufactures courage. If you feed it discipline, it manufactures progress. Your thoughts are not harmless. They are not random. They are not passive. They are the starting point of every moment of your life. The problem is that most people treat their minds like an open dumpster instead of a protected factory. They let anybody throw anything in there. They let negativity pile up. They let the voices of others become more powerful than their own. They replay hurtful moments from the past as though they're rehearsing for a future performance. They hold on to memories that no longer serve them and yet wonder why they keep walking into the same kind of situations. Most people don't realize that the mind doesn't produce what you need. It produces what you repeatedly think about. If stress is your dominant thought, stress becomes your dominant experience. If failure is the thought you rehearse, failure becomes the pattern you repeat. If scarcity is the idea you cling to, then every blessing you receive still feels like it's not enough. When you understand this simple truth, you begin to understand why you've been stuck for so long, or why certain parts of your life always seem to follow you no matter how many times you try to start over. Your mind is always listening to you, even when nobody else is. Every I can't, every I'm not enough, every I'm too late, every I've missed my chance, your mind stores it, organizes it, and prepares your actions to match it. That's why a person who constantly says, "I'm unlucky," keeps experiencing misfortune, not because the universe is picking on them, but because their thoughts only recognize events that validate the belief they've been feeding their mind. Your thoughts filter your awareness. They determine what you notice, what you remember, what you focus on, what you react to. If someone believes opportunities don't come their way, their mind will ignore opportunities that are right in front of them. If someone believes nobody supports them, their mind will overlook the people who actually do. The mind is loyal to your dominant thoughts, and it will bend your perception to protect what you believe. But here's the beautiful part. The moment you start feeding your mind a different diet, your life begins to change. If you start speaking possibility, you start seeing opportunities where you used to see obstacles. If you start telling yourself you're capable, your mind begins producing the courage to take the first step. If you start imagining a better future, your decisions begin to match the direction you're imagining. Nothing around you changes until something within you changes first. You can switch environments, switch jobs, switch people, switch cities, but if you keep feeding your mind the same thoughts, you'll recreate the same life wherever you go. Elevation doesn't come from relocation, it comes from transformation. And transformation starts with thought. Think about the dreams you once had, the ones you let go of because life got loud, responsibilities piled up, people discouraged, or fear convinced you that settling was safer than trying. Those dreams didn't die. They were simply starved. Dreams don't disappear, they fade when you stop feeding them, but imagine what could happen if you started feeding your mind again, feeding it with vision instead of worry, feeding it with courage instead of hesitation, feeding it with gratitude instead of complaints, feeding it with faith instead of frustration. Your mind responds to whatever you consistently give it. Even small shifts in your thinking can create massive shifts in your life because the mind multiplies whatever you plant. Think of a tiny seed. You plant it, you water it, you give it sunlight, and slowly it becomes something far bigger than it started. Your thoughts work the same way. A single thought of confidence can grow into a career. A single thought of self-worth can grow into a relationship that honors you. A single thought of discipline can grow into a healthy body. And yes, a single thought of doubt can grow into a lifetime of settling. You are never thinking in neutral. Your thoughts are always moving you closer to something or further from something. They are either building you or breaking you, lifting you or limiting you, freeing you or trapping you. The mind is a factory. It must produce, and it will produce according to the instructions you give it through the thoughts you repeat. Most people don't understand that you can't think one way and live another. You can't think lack and live abundance. You can't think weakness and live confidence. You can't think small and live big. You can't think defeat and expect victory. Your thoughts will drag your life back to wherever your mindset is set. You cannot outwork a negative mind. You cannot outrun your own self-doubt. You cannot outperform the story you tell yourself. Change your story, and the story of your life will change with it. Change your thoughts, and your whole direction shifts. Change what you feed your mind, and your mind will start producing a reality that reflects the new ingredients. Because the factory never stops working. The only question is, what are you giving it to create with? Your belief system is the invisible ceiling that decides how high you can go in life. Most people think their limitations come from their education, their family, their past, or their resources, but the truth is that the biggest limitation they face is the story they've accepted about themselves. That story becomes the roof over their potential. If you believe you can't do something, you won't even attempt it. If you believe you're not worthy, you'll push away opportunities meant for you. If you believe you're destined to struggle, you'll find a way to sabotage anything good that enters your life. That ceiling is not built by circumstances, it's built by beliefs. And the moment you understand that your beliefs are choices rather than facts, you begin to reclaim your power. Because most of the beliefs you live by today were not created by you. They were handed to you, taught to you, repeated to you, or forced onto you before you were old enough to question them. Yet you've been living under their weight for years without ever checking if they were true. Every decision you make starts with a belief. Do you apply for the job? Do you speak up in the meeting? Do you leave the comfort zone? Do you take the risk? Do you stand up for yourself? Do you dream bigger? The answer to every one of these questions is determined by what you believe you deserve and what you believe you're capable of. And the problem is, people think their beliefs are reflections of their reality, when in fact their reality is a reflection of their beliefs. You don't wait for your life to change so you can believe more. You believe more so your life can change. Life doesn't expand first. Your belief expands first. When your belief system changes, everything in your life starts to rearrange itself to match the new level you've set. Think about people who achieve unbelievable things. They didn't start with more time, more money, more talent, or more support. They started with a belief that they were allowed to want more out of life. They believed that possibility was on their side. They believed they were worthy of better. They believed they had something in them that deserved to be developed. And because they believed it, they acted on it. Your actions will never rise higher than your beliefs because your actions are powered by the level of belief inside you. If you believe you're average, you'll perform like someone who is average. If you believe your life can improve, you'll start making choices that allow improvement. If you believe you're capable of greatness, you'll start showing up with a different level of energy, focus, and determination. Belief is not just mental. It changes your behavior, and your behavior changes your future. The danger is that negative beliefs feel comfortable. They feel familiar. They feel safe. You've lived with them so long that you don't even notice them anymore. They become automatic, like background noise you've learned to ignore, but still unconsciously respond to. You think you're playing it safe, but really you're playing it small. Limiting beliefs sound like inner protection, but they are actually inner prisons. They keep you from raising your hand, from stepping forward, from trying one more time, from going after what you want. You tell yourself you're being realistic, but what you're really being is restricted. Every time you lower your expectations out of fear, you reinforce that ceiling above you. Every time you talk yourself out of an opportunity you want, you reinforce the belief that you don't deserve better. You don't need anyone else to limit you. You're already doing it with your beliefs. But the moment you start challenging those beliefs, everything begins to shift. A belief loses its power the moment you question it. When you start asking, who told me this? Why do I believe this? Is this really true? Has this belief helped me or held me back? Your mind wakes up. You start seeing cracks in the ceiling. You start recognizing how many of your limits were imaginary. You start understanding how many of your fears were inherited. A belief isn't a truth, it's a mental habit. It's a pattern repeated so often that it feels real. And the beautiful part is, a pattern can be replaced. A belief can be rewritten. A ceiling can be raised. You have the ability to design a new mental blueprint for your life. When you start believing differently, you start attracting differently. People who used to overlook you suddenly notice you. Opportunities that used to intimidate you suddenly excite you. Challenges that used to stop you suddenly sharpen you. Your belief system sends a signal to the world about what you're ready for, and the world responds to that signal. If your belief system says, I'm scared, life will give you more reasons to be scared. If your belief says, I'm growing, life will give you more opportunities to grow. It's not magic, it's alignment. Life meets you at the level of your belief. Most people never rise because they never raise their beliefs. They want $1 million dream with a $10 mindset. They want big blessings with small expectations. They want transformation without reprogramming the thoughts that keep dragging them backwards. But success, peace, purpose, and fulfillment, they all begin in the mind long before they appear in reality. You cannot outperform your belief system any more than a tree can grow taller than the soil allows. But if you enrich the soil, the tree grows. If you enrich your beliefs, your life expands. Your belief system is not a prison unless you decide to remain in it. It can be rebuilt, redesigned, and reimagined. You become what you think about, yes, but you also rise to the level of what you believe you deserve. And when you begin to believe that you are capable, that you are worthy, that you are enough, that you are equipped, that your dreams are valid, that your future can be bigger than your past. Your ceiling lifts and the sky opens, and suddenly you begin walking into a version of yourself that always existed inside you, just waiting for permission to come alive. Everything you repeatedly think eventually becomes something you repeatedly do, and everything you repeatedly do eventually becomes who you are. People underestimate how powerful small thoughts are because they look harmless in the beginning. A single doubt doesn't look dangerous. A single excuse doesn't look threatening. A single negative thought doesn't look life-changing. But thoughts don't stay small when repeated. They grow roots. They become patterns. They influence your decisions without you noticing. They shape your reactions, your discipline, your confidence, and your consistency. A thought left unchecked becomes a habit. And once a habit becomes part of your life, it starts shaping your character, whether you intended it or not. You don't wake up confident. You think confident thoughts long enough that confidence becomes your habit. You don't wake up disciplined. You think disciplined thoughts long enough that discipline becomes automatic. You don't wake up defeated. You think defeated thoughts long enough that defeat becomes your default response to life. Your destiny begins in the privacy of your thoughts, long before anyone sees the results. Habits are not built in the gym, the office, or the routine. They're built internally first. They start in the quiet moments when no one is watching, when the mind whispers something and you decide whether to obey it or ignore it. When your mind says do it later and you listen, you reinforce procrastination. When your mind says it doesn't matter and you agree, you reinforce carelessness. When your mind says you're tired and you accept it, you reinforce inconsistency. But the same rule works in your favor too. When your mind says get up and you follow, you reinforce discipline. When your mind says try again and you act, you reinforce resilience. When your mind says you can do this and you move forward, you reinforce courage. The mind sets the stage. The habit performs the show. The more you repeat the performance, the more it becomes who you are. Most people don't realize how many of their habits were formed unconsciously. They didn't choose these habits. They simply grew from repeated thoughts. You think you're not good enough long enough, and suddenly your habit becomes self-sabotage. You think life is unfair long enough, and suddenly your habit becomes complaining. You think people always disappoint you long enough, and suddenly your habit becomes isolation. These habits shape your character, and your character shapes your destiny. Not because destiny is pre-written, but because your character determines what you attract, tolerate, pursue, avoid, or settle for. A person with habits rooted in discipline will attract opportunities that require reliability. A person with habits rooted in laziness will attract situations that keep them stuck. A person with habits rooted in confidence will walk through doors others are afraid to approach. A person with habits rooted in fear will stand still even when the door is wide open. Character is not who you pretend to be. It's who you've trained yourself to be through your daily habits. Character is what you do when no one is clapping for you, when no one is judging you, when no one is checking on you. Character is built in the mornings you don't want to get up, in the nights you want to quit, in the moments when giving up looks easier than pressing forward. People admire success, but forget that success is nothing more than a collection of strong character traits, built from strong habits, built from strong thoughts. You cannot build a powerful destiny on a weak foundation. The foundation must be thoughts that lift you, challenge you, stretch you, and drive you toward growth. When those thoughts become habits, they create a version of you capable of handling the blessing you've been asking for. Think about it. You can't think like a quitter and live like a champion. You can't think like a victim and live like a victor. You can't think like a doubter and live like a believer. You can't think like someone who waits and live like someone who wins. Winners don't suddenly become winners. They think winning thoughts long enough that winning becomes a habit. Leaders don't suddenly lead. They think leadership thoughts long enough that courage and decisiveness become second nature. People with purpose don't stumble onto it. They think purposeful thoughts long enough that meaningful actions become their lifestyle. Your destiny isn't something you find. It's something you form through repeated mental and behavioral choices. Most people want a different life but keep feeding themselves the same thoughts that built their current life. They want confidence while feeding themselves insecurity. They want success while feeding themselves excuses. They want purpose while feeding themselves distractions. They want growth while feeding themselves doubt. They want greatness while feeding themselves fear. You cannot plant negative seeds and expect positive fruit. You cannot think in one direction and move in another. You cannot allow negative habits to shape a character you hope will produce a positive destiny. Life doesn't work that way. Character is the accumulation of all your mental choices, all your habits, all your responses, and all your disciplines. And destiny is simply the harvest of that character. The moment you change your thoughts, you begin to change your habits. The moment you change your habits, you begin to change your character. And the moment your character changes, your destiny starts shifting. You begin to attract things you were never ready for before. You begin to walk into opportunities that match the person you've become. You begin to move differently, speak differently, decide differently, and show up differently. You begin to feel aligned, focused, intentional, and grounded. And for the first time, your future begins to reflect the thoughts you've been feeding your mind instead of the fears you've been fighting all your life, because destiny doesn't choose you. You choose it with the thoughts you allow to take root, the habits you build, and the character you commit to becoming. When you look back at everything we've talked about today, it all points to one unshakable truth. Your mind has been shaping your life long before you ever realized it. The thoughts you've been repeating, the beliefs you've been carrying, the habits you've been practicing, the character you've been building, they have all been constructing the life you're living right now. And if your life feels too small for the dreams in your heart, it's not because the dream is too big. It's because your thoughts have been too limited. You become what you think about. Not sometimes, not occasionally, not when life is easy, always. Your mind is the architect, your habits are the workers, your character is the structure, and your destiny is the finished masterpiece. If you want a different destination, you must give the architect a different blueprint. You must give your habits a different assignment. You must give your character a different standard. It all starts within you, and it all starts today. You are not stuck. You are not defeated. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are not beyond repair. You simply need a new thought, a new belief, a new direction. The version of you that you dream of becoming is already inside you right now, waiting for you to think, believe, and act on a higher level. You hold the pen that writes your destiny, and you hold the power to rewrite any chapter you don't want to repeat. So from this moment forward, guard your mind like the treasure it is. Feed it with vision. Feed it with belief. Feed it with gratitude. Feed it with possibility. Because the next breakthrough in your life won't come from luck or timing. It will come from a shift in your thinking. Once your mind changes, your world changes. Once your thoughts rise, your life rises. And once you commit to thinking on the level of the person you were created to be, your destiny has no choice but to meet you there.